Why consistency matters. You know, a lot of times I'm asked, how can I get the most out of my chiropractic care? How can I move forward faster, doc? What are the things that I'm able to do in order to help myself get back into the groove, into the swing of things? Well, tonight, we're going to answer some of those questions. We're going to talk about how momentum moves us, and we're going to talk about it a little bit differently. So I want you to be prepared. In fact, I want to make sure that you understand that this is the beginning of the process for you. Learning, getting the information. From there, it's a matter of taking action against it. So I want you to be prepared. At the end of the workshop, I want your takeaway. In the comment section below, I want you to leave me what your big takeaway from this conversation was. What's the one thing that you really want to start working on in order to help yourself improve that level of momentum that you have? For those of you who are signing on, I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center, and I want to welcome you to our conversation this evening. Now, momentum, the quantity of motion of a moving body measured as a product of its mass and velocity. I love that definition. You know, there's a lot that goes into that. And in turn, we're going to break it down really, really simply, because in the end, you know what? We don't have to overcomplicate this, because we want to make sure that that momentum, the force that we put into the equation, the velocity that we're capable of producing, that it keeps us moving, not just moving, but moving forward in the right direction. And in fact, the big thing is us applying a very simple formula against velocity, against momentum, which happens to be time, frequency, and intensity. Now, let's be honest. Time is involved in all healing processes. You break a bone, it's still going to take you 9 weeks in order for that bone to heal. Yes, I know what research tells us. Once you get that cast off, once you get that brace off, your body is going to continue going through the remodeling process. In fact, there's a lot of research out there that demonstrates how your body continues to heal over a much longer period of time than most of us really think about it. Now, the frequency part of this equation is you and I doing the right things on a repetitive manner, repeatedly going back to the well, stimulating the body to do the right thing and to continue that motion. Now, the third part of this is the one that's a real key. It's the intensity. If you've ever done a couch to 5K, if you've ever tried running a marathon, listen, everybody moves at a different pace. Are we going to complete the process? Does everybody cross the finish line? Well, the answer is if they have the drive, the answer is yes. Now, some individuals in a marathon, they're going to cross the finish line in just a little over 2 hours. They're fast. They're moving at an intensity and a pace that's, second to none. It's world class. There's others that they're going to take 6-7 hours in order to cover the same 26.2 miles that's involved. But regardless, you still get to the finish line. It's up to each and every one of us to determine, well, how fast, how quickly do I want to get to where I desire? How much can I push momentum to keep me moving in that right direction? And in fact, one of the very first steps that we talk about with our patients is a very simple thing, but, quite honestly, we have to keep it in mind in order to really understand this momentum thing. Part of it is us testing the system. Many of us come in and we have no idea where we're at. In fact, we talk about it, that fact that, the average chiropractic patient is 50 years of age. Over 600 maintenance adjustments behind schedule. The average 4-year-old, research has demonstrated the fact that they've had 4,000 impact injuries. That's a 4-year-old. Imagine you at 20, 30, 50, 70, how many different impacts? How many different times you've tripped up the steps? You've missed a step going down. You've had the little fender bender. Maybe it is you stepped wrong off the curb. Maybe you played outside with your brothers and sisters. All of those things that we have forgotten about throughout our lifetime. See, the sad thing is that many of the impacts, many of those things that have left scars behind in our body are things we don't even think about. And yet, when we test the system, we have the opportunity of knowing where we're starting from. In fact, when you pick up your GPS or say, hey Siri, give me directions to, the very first thing that it asks you is, where are we starting from? What's that starting point? Well, unless you test the system, unless you look inside and do the things that we do in order to understand how the body is functioning, you never know where it is or what hole you're digging yourself out of. So the very first thing is for us to simply test the system. In other words, in our office, listen, if you're new to chiropractic, maybe it is you're watching this video and you're just learning more about how it is I can care for my body differently and move it forward more quickly. The first thing in our chiropractic evaluation is your posture check. It's our posture, our window into that spine and that nervous system of yours. Yes, those outside markers act as an understanding of what's happening inside the system. Now from there, it's not enough that we see that things are shifted and twisted. We then feel for how the bones are positioned and moving. Because listen, it's not enough that something might be perfectly straight, but you know what? If it's not moving, if it's rigid and hard, well, it has no function. There's conditions, they're called ankylosing spondylitis, that actually fuse the spine together. Yes, the spine could be really nice and straight, but there's no motion in it whatsoever. And as a chiropractic patient, you're going to learn the fact that motion is one of those keys to success inside of our body. From there, testing the system means, yes, we're going to look inside if in fact your body demonstrates there's a high likelihood that subluxation is present. And in fact, that's when we take x-rays. We get to measure the spine for the position and for the things that are breaking down, just like a cavity. The longer those subluxations are there, the worse it gets. So in turn, we need to know where we're starting from. And then what we get is we get the understanding of where it is you need to go. We know that, research has demonstrated the absolute ideal spine. Perfectly straight from behind, and those proper 45 to 60 degree curves from the side. The modeling has not changed. Research has demonstrated how you're capable of loading up this spine of yours with thousands of pounds of force and pressure if in fact it's in the proper position. Unfortunately, we as Americans, we as individuals, if we haven't been doing that, maintaining the spine from birth on, keeping it nice and straight, keeping those curves in place, that research that's out there done by the rheumatologist and demonstrating the fact that our spine is supposed to last for 125 years without showing any signs of arthritis, any signs of decay, any signs of breakdown whatsoever. 125 years. Unfortunately, we oftentimes see that it's anything but in that perfect state. So knowing where we're starting from, knowing where we're supposed to be, allows us that opportunity of creating the action steps. And let me tell you, one of the most important things in this sentence is that word action. The problem is that oftentimes we live in a world that we have been trained. Hey, listen, as long as I have no pain, I have no problem. As long as I feel good, I'm healthy. Shake it off. It'll eventually go away. The problem is if we don't take action against these subluxations and this poor functioning spine, the problem is it'll only continue to worsen with time. Cavity doesn't get better on its own. You go to your dentist and they're going to tell you point blank, you don't have to address this, but in 6 months when you come back, we're going to have a bigger problem to address. More drilling, more filling, and sometimes you're going to get to that place where, you know what, those simple options they're not going to fulfill, they're not going to fix the problem. Therefore, we have to talk about more extreme action and measures to get you back to that place of wholeness where you're supposed to be. Well, let me tell you, your body is less than forgiving. So if you're not taking action and that proper action now, things only continue to worsen with time. Now, I love that we get to ask this next question. How do we keep momentum moving? It's so important. It's not enough that we're able to create this change, we're able to take action, stimulate the body to move in the right direction. How is it that we're able to keep it moving? Well, I want to share something with you. It's something that I do on a daily basis. It's something that my team and I do, same with my family, and that's we perform gas. Now, I love this term. It's not a term that I came up with, but in fact, it's one of those things that makes sure that we're doing those next right steps for ourselves. And in fact, let me just describe to you what that is. That G stands for gratitude. We extend gratitude for the things that we have. See, oftentimes we forget how wonderfully blessed we are. And when we forget how blessed we are, we start looking at all of the negative things. Well, let me tell you, when we focus on those negative things, they definitely act as anchors in our lives. And the sad thing is that oftentimes we look at what we don't have or what we're thinking we're lacking, as opposed to thinking about all of the blessings that we have. In fact, one of the things that comes under gratitude is us recognizing those positive shifts that we're performing. And in fact, the more we acknowledge those positive things, the more we get those positive things in our lives. There's a book out there, it's a 1 Minute Manager. And that 1 Minute Manager is basically telling us, find those positive things to tell people that they're doing. And when you do that, guess what ends up happening? They're going to want to repeat those positive things that you are acknowledging for them. Listen, we're no different. We need to do that for ourselves. In fact, once we've performed a list of gratitudes, then we write down those action steps. Now, for many of us, when we think about momentum, we're going to really work on maybe 1, 2, 3 things tops that we're going to be given in order to continue to shift the dial, continue to move ourselves forward. And I say 1 or 2, maybe 3 things tops because listen, we're going to be really focusing, creating that intensity and attacking those 1, 2, or 3 things. And for some of us, maybe it might be only that one thing. We don't have an infinite amount of energy to pour into this process. Guess what? We have to focus that energy. So for some of us, it might be narrowing down. What am I going to attack? What am I going to work on first? And create that hierarchy or that list of things that I'm going to attack, one after the other. One important thing is to make sure that you take things to completion before you start something new. Now, the last thing is that service. It's us giving back to the people around us, us finding somebody not just to help out on a periodic basis, but to make a habit of it. Because in turn, it's been demonstrated how when we're in service, when we're extending help to somebody else, how that feeds that positive energy in our own lives. There's numerous amounts of research articles that are out there that help to demonstrate this out. But you know what? In the end, one thing that I left off of this gas is we need to celebrate. We need to celebrate the wins. Because if we don't acknowledge those milestones that we're overcoming, I've lost 5 pounds, I've been able to run 1 minute faster than I was, a month ago. If we don't acknowledge those things, then we're not giving energy into creating more of that positive momentum for ourselves. I say this all the time. So, you know what? There is a point in time where you have to be your best advocate. not just for asking questions, getting information, but also in that world of encouragement. I can do it. We need to celebrate and remind ourselves of the milestones that we're overcoming. And in turn, for me, as we're learning this information, we need to make sure that we're sharing our wins. It's a wonderful thing. Facebook is out there, different platforms are there, whether it's WhatsApp, to share with your friends and family these different milestones and these different wins. It's a matter of being able to help to, demonstrate, how you're moving forward, but more importantly, even educate and help somebody else in possibly their journey. I love the fact that, yes, consistency does matter. It gains that momentum that we ultimately desire. And in fact, as you're sitting back and you're thinking about it, I know that there's probably one or two things that you've experienced in your chiropractic care that you should be sharing. Because I realize that as we're in this journey to better health and living a more vitalistic life, that guess what? Others out there are capable from learning from our experience and helping them break free of some of the anchors that might be holding them behind. I'm going to ask you to pause and just leave one of your big takeaways from this video in the comment section below. Like the video, it helps to make sure that more of the local viewers in this area see this information, but then share this with your Facebook friends. People that you know that you like, help them better understand how they're capable of creating that momentum and using gas in order to help move themselves forward more quickly. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.